Greetings and salutations, my lovelies. Bardic Kitty here, and in case you can't tell, we're doing something a little different today. Alright, so couple of things first off. I'm kind of having a sinusy thing, so if I sound kind of gross, I'm sorry. Also, I'm showing you my gloves are kind of nasty looking and have holes in them. I need to replace them, but the store that I used to buy them from no longer carries them, and I haven't had a chance to order online a new pair yet, but I did find them online, so I'll be getting them soon. Alright, the other thing I just did there is I showed you the type of bracelet that I'm going to be making, and I've already picked out, as you can see, some rainbow colors, but look at this color range. This isn't even all of the colors that my supplier offers. I order them online. I'll put a link below or something. It's the Ring Lord. First thing I want to do is clarify, this is not like a how to make chainmail tutorial. You'll kind of see the process as I go through and make everything, but when it comes right down to it, it's not going to be like a tutorial. I'm not teaching you how to do this. I just thought that you might be interested in some of the other things that I do. In particular, when I do my conventions and my art tables and everything, or artist alley tables, this is one of the main things that I do, is actually sell the chainmail jewelry. And I have like my prints, and I offer drawing commissions, and I have buttons and stuff, but a lot of my sales actually are from my jewelry instead of my art. My drawings, rather. This is a kind of art too. So I just figured that I would share that with you. This is another important aspect of who I am. And you may even have noticed, like more recently in my videos, I have a couple of bracelets that I had made and kept for myself, and I'll actually be wearing them while I'm drawing. In fact, I've got the purple one on in this video. What I'm doing right now is just closing a bunch of rings to prep for it. Basically, the rings come partially open because it's a coil around like a dowel that is then cut. And so they're always like partially open. And you need to be able to open the rings to loop them around each other, but for a simple weave like this, I actually just tend to pre-close a bunch of rings because you don't have to open every ring to put it through other rings. You can use like that middle strand to put them all together. Alright, and so I'm probably just going to go ahead and speed up some of that footage, and yeah. Okay, so something that I've been wanting to address, obviously I had promised that there would be the bonus video with the daily drawing stuff in it, as well as I didn't post a video last week. Without getting too involved, I've been having a bit of a rough time lately. I actually got home from that convention the 2 weekends ago now, and I went into a horrible depression there's most of that week, and I just couldn't seem to get anything done. Everything was making me cry. It's something that I struggle with, and I'm trying to find some ways to deal with it, but sometimes it gets the best of me, and that has happened, and I actually fell behind on my daily drawings, and that made me too ashamed to try to do the video. And yeah, so I am still going to do that bonus video, but I'm not going to promise that it's going to be out at a certain time. Yeah, so not saying any of this so that you'll feel sorry for me or anything like that. I just wanted you guys to know that that is a thing, and that I am very sorry that I just didn't upload last week. But YouTubers are people too, and we do have other things that happen in our lives, and while I do want to do better and make sure that I'm not skipping videos, sometimes it might happen, and I'm sorry if I let anybody down. But you have a new video this week, and it's something completely different, so hopefully you will enjoy this and kind of get a better idea of the kinds of things that I do. Going back to what's happening in the video here now, I'm going to add the clasp and then start actually constructing the bracelet, so you'll get to start seeing it actually coming together, and I'll show you a couple where I do it in real time and then probably speed up the rest of the process. And this, like I said, is a pretty simple weave. It's called European 4-in-1, and this is the weave that like your standard chainmail armor and stuff in European fantasy would be made out of, or rather historically as well. There is a separate type of weave that's an Asian or Japanese or Oriental, depending on whatever phrase you want to use. It's like Oriental 4-in-1, and they just did their armor in a slightly different pattern, but this is the European version, and I don't know too much about like the actual history of it and everything. A lot of times they would like double the rings, and so it would become like a 4-in-2. Those numbers, by the way, is how many rings other rings go through. So in this case, one ring will go through 4 other rings. Yeah, so you're learning a little bit about chainmail now. There are all kinds of great tutorials online if you did want to, take your gander at this. Like I said, I have no plans of doing tutorials for it, but I just figured I'd give you that little bit of information. Like I said, this is what armor actually used to be made out of, and this is also, I consider it like a very base weave, and there are several like variations of this that I do to make different bracelets that all look a little different and have their own charm to them. And I believe I will show some of those at the end. This is also what, like, if you've ever seen like a chainmail dice bag or something, this is usually the weave that those would be made out of. It occurs to me I did mention my gloves and the state that they're in. I didn't really mention like what I use those for, like why I wear them. This is actually a very physically difficult task, and arthritis and everything does run in my family, so it's kind of protecting me in a few different ways. Like it's trying to help combat anything that or like any like carpal tunnel pains that I might develop, because it's a lot of repetitive motion with my wrists. But more so even than any of that, that's what the crafter gloves usually are for, and they're for like anybody who does any kind of stitching or sewing or whatever. But in my case, it also keeps the pliers from rubbing directly against my palms. I once took so many commissions at one convention that I was working pretty much nonstop the whole weekend, and it reached a point where I couldn't grasp the pliers anymore because I'd worn so much of the like top layers of skin off of my palm from the rubbing that it was just so sore and it hurt. And then my joints and my fingers get kind of like locked up and they get really stiff. So if you do decide that you'd like to try something like this, do make sure, just like with drawing, that you're taking breaks, that you're like keeping aware of what your fingers and hands are telling you, because it can become painful, especially if you're just starting out and you're not used to doing this kind of work. So that's something about this. Like, I love it. It's very zen for me. I love being able to just sit down and just make something with my hands. And I do have to put some thought into it, but it's not exactly the same as trying to create a whole big drawing and having to really focus on, is this piece of the drawing turning out right? Am I doing good colors? Am I doing everything correctly? I can just sit down there and do the weave. I know the weave, so I can just put it all together. But physically, it can still be very taxing. So it's one of those trade-offs when you're wanting to create something, and there's going to be factors that are going to make it difficult, no matter what it is, no matter how. I've been doing chainmail for probably about 10 years now, and it still can be difficult for me just because of those physical exertions. Not even exertions, just the constant motion, the gripping of the pliers, the way that my fingers lock up. It's especially bad if it's cold. I have issues with like my circulation or something, and yeah. But at the same time, I get to the end and I have something beautiful, and it's all worth it. If that makes any sense at all. All right, and so there is the finished bracelet, and this took probably about half an hour or so. Obviously, I've sped up some different parts so that you didn't have to watch the whole thing, and now this is this beautiful rainbow piece that I've created while you guys were watching. And I'm going to put that on and then show you some of the other weaves that can be done. And then my purple bracelet. The other weave there is called a JPL. It's like Jin's pinned linkage or something like that, but JPL is usually what it's shortened as. And I particularly like that, which is why I've kept a few of those specifically for myself. But then here's the 3 that I showed you at the beginning. You can also do this with the rubber rings so that they stretch, and these are a lot of fun. And again, now I'm just showing you some of these different ways, and all of these start from this base weave, so it just depends on like what other kind of centerpieces I put on them. These ones, like I just added extra ones along the edge where they were like, you know, like gone into 3 other rings to make them look like flowers. I can put beads on them, use different sized rings to add just a certain different element to the piece. It's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy just playing with the different aspects of even just the same basic weave. I'm gonna try to, let's see, there's one that's called the box weave that I'm gonna pull out. This is basically, you make the European 4-in-1 and then you fold it in on itself and add a top row of rings, and then you end up with a little box. And this is apparently, you know, a totally legitimate weave and everything, but I discovered this one just playing around myself. And I was like, what else can I do with this? And I folded it up and I'm like, I wonder if this would stay together. And it's so much fun. And there's, at the one hand, there are tutorials out there and there are set weaves, and you can, in theory, only do so much with those, except that you can play with colors, you can add beads, you can just do whatever you want within that constraint and still come up with something very unique. And just thank you very much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I should be back next Thursday with a new video. So I love you all, and I will see you next week.